Welcome back to Yehoshua's Daf Yomi Shiur, where the Daf continues until the complete revelation, arrival and appearance of Mashiach ben David, Messiah the son of David. May it be today. We are on page 63b, Samach Gimel and Beis of Chullin, with the words Vakati Esrin B'cham. So we're kind of an interesting topic about the birds in Leviticus and the birds in Deuteronomy and the exact number and different ways of extrapolating the verses to include other birds and say that two birds really were one. And so we left off with a question where even with this special way of counting it, the Gemara says that there's 25 birds and not 24. There's still one extra bird. So that's what we're up to. Akati esrin v'cham shehavu. Close to the top. Maybe a line or two into it. Akati esrin v'cham shehavu. Amar Abaye kashem shiraveda achasi kach ayavedaya achasi. Di sokadach tartininu mechti mishne toira leosefe huda samaishna chadichsiv lemina aya maishna som nichsiv lemina dayo eroshma mina aya daya achasi. The Gemara objects. Okay, there's 25 birds, not 24. Abaye said, just as the ra'ah and da'ah are one species, so too aya and daya, the latter of which is mentioned only in Deuteronomy, are one species. As if it enters your mind that they are two different species, one might ask, since it is assumed that the list in Deuteronomy comes to add to the list in Leviticus, what is different here in Leviticus that it is written after its kinds about the ayah, prohibiting some other kind of ayah? And what is different there in Deuteronomy that it is written after its kinds about the dayah? Why is the ayah not mentioned? Rather, learn from the use of the same phrase with regard to the ayah and dayah that they are one species. Kedetanya Rabbi Omer Ekrani aya daya lama nemra kede שלא תיתן פסחים פה לבעל דין לחלוק שלא תהא אתה קורא ראיה והוא קורא דיה אתה קורא דיה והוא קורא ראיה לכך כתב במשנה תורה יראה וסיה ודיה למינה. The Gemara asked, and now that the ayah and the daya are one species, why did the Torah need to write both ayah and daya in Deuteronomy? The Gemara responds, as it is taught in the Braita, that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says, given that the two are one species, I will read ayah and know that it's forbidden. Why is daya stated? It is so as not to give a claim to a litigant to disagree. And it should not occur that you call it an ayah and he calls it a daya and eats it. Likewise, the Torah did not write only daya so that it will not occur that you call it a daya and he calls it an ayah and eats it. Therefore, the Torah writes in Deuteronomy, and the ra'ah and the ayah and the daya after its kinds. Deuteronomy 14:13. Consequently, both the list in Leviticus and that in Deuteronomy enumerate 24 birds in accordance with the statement attributed to Rahav. Meisvei lama nishnu bibehema mipnei hashesua ubeofos mipnei hara'ah my love midi behema dehosim leosofe oifos nami leosofe lo hosim leosofe hachalef roshe. The Gemara raises an objection from a Braita. Why is the list of non-kosher animals in Leviticus repeated? It is due to the necessity of adding the shesua. Deuteronomy 14:7, which is not listed in Leviticus. And the list of non-kosher birds is repeated due to the ra'ah. What? Is it not understood from the fact that the extra list of animals there in Deuteronomy is to add animals? That the list of birds is also repeated to add birds? The Gemara responds, no. There, with regard to the animals, the list is repeated to add. But here, with regard to birds, it is repeated only to explain. Upliga Rebahu Dam Rebahu Rose Aya V'Lamanikra Shemor Aya Sherav Yoter V'cheinu Omer Nisiv Lo Yadu Ait V'Lo Shizafto Ein Aya Tanamedes B'Movel V'Rov Nevei L'Maz Yisrael. And the opinion that the Da'ah and Ra'ah are one species and the Ayah and the Da'ah are another species differs from the opinion of Rabbi Abahu. As Rabbi Abahu says, the Ra'ah is the Ayah. And why is it called the Ra'ah? Since it sees most vividly. And the verse states, the path no bird of prey knows, neither has the eye of the Ayah seen it. Job 28, verse 7. And a sage taught, the Ra'ah can stand in Babylonia and see a carcass in Eretz Yisrael. Oh, that's far. That's some good vision there. Mi dera'ah hainu ayom mikladid alav hainu ra'ah mechdi mishnetar lesav Yehudi asa ma'ishno hachad ksiv da'ah ma'ishno hasnu ksiv da'ah el alav shmamino da'av ra'ah ayachasi. The Gemara discusses a Rivahu statement. Since the Ra'ah is the same as the Ayah, by inference, one may conclude that the Da'ah is not the same as the Ra'ah. Otherwise, there are not 24 non-kosher birds. But since it is assumed that the list in Deuteronomy comes to add to the list in Leviticus, what is different here in Leviticus that it is written Da'ah? And what is different there in Deuteronomy that Da'ah is not written? Rather, one must not conclude from the discrepancy that the two are the same. If so, one must conclude that according to Rabbi Abahu, that Da'ah and Ra'ah and Ayah are all one species. Mi umi Da'ah hainu Ayah michlal de Da'ah lav hainu Ayah ma'ishno hasam tiksiv limineu Ayah umay shno hacha delo ksiv limineu Ayah delo Adaya ela shmamina Da'ah v'Raya v'Ra'ah Da'ah v'Ayah achasi. And furthermore, from the fact that Rabbi Abahu holds that the Ra'ah is the same as the Ayah by inference, one may conclude that the Da'ah is not the same as the Ayah. But if so, one may ask again, what is different there in Leviticus that is written after its kinds about the Ayah, and what is different here in Deuteronomy that it is not written after its kinds about the Ayah, but about the Da'ah? Rather, the Ayah and Da'ah must be one species. And one may learn from the combination of the two disputes that according to Rabbi Abahu, the Da'ah and Ra'ah and Da'ah and Ayah are all one species. Consequently, according to Rabbi Abahu, there are only 23 non-kosher species. Okay. Tanya Isi ben Yehuda Omer Mea oifois temein yesh b'mizrach v'chulin min Ayah hen Tanya v'imi b'rei d'Rabbi Abahu sheva me'ois b'nei dogim hen u'shmoina me'ois b'nei chagrovim u'le'oifois ein nispor. Oifois eschim v'arba havu ela le'oifois tehorim ein nispor. With regard to the phrase in the Ayah after its kinds, Leviticus 11:14, it is taught in a Braita. With that, Isi ben Yehuda says there are 100 non-kosher birds in the east, and they are all species of ayah. Avim, the son of Rabbi Bahu's taught. There are 700 types of non-kosher fish and 800 types of non-kosher grasshopper, and there are countless birds. The Gemara protests. Are there countless non-kosher birds? But there are only 24 non-kosher birds mentioned in the Torah. Rather, Avinu must have meant, and there are countless kosher birds. Okay. Tanya Rabbi Omer, Galavidur Lifnei Mi Shomer Hoilam Shvehema Tmei Meruba Minatoirois. Hirach Manakas Betoira, Galavidur Lifnei Mi Sheomar Hoilam Shoivus Toirin Merubin, Ala Tmein Lefigach Manakas Betmein. It's Tana Braita. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says, is revealed and known before the one who spoke and the world came into being, that the species of non-kosher animals are more numerous than the kosher ones. Therefore, the Torah lists the kosher animals, teaching that all the rest are non-kosher. On the other hand, it is revealed and known before the one who spoke and the world came into being that the species of kosher birds are more numerous than the non-kosher ones. Therefore, the Torah lists the non-kosher birds. Is this a contradictory statement? Looks like it. Okay, my kamash milan kedrav huna marav v'amila amarav huna marav yishumarav meir shumarav meir lo'ilam yishtadam etalminu derech etzara. What is the Gemara asks? What is this Braita teaching us? The Gemara responds, as Rav Huna says that Rav says. Some say that Rav Huna says that Rav says in the name of Rabbi Meir. A person should always teach a student in a concise manner, just as the Torah is concise in its language. Amar Rav Yitzchak, oif to'ir nechal b'mesayres. Nemar tzayad, lomar, of ze to'ir, masar li rabbi. Amar Rav Yochanan, vehu shabaki, bahen uvishmoy sehed. Rabbi Yitzchak says a kosher bird may be eaten on the strength of a tradition that it is kosher, without inspecting for the sign listed in the Mishnah. And the hunter is deemed credible to say, my teacher conveyed to me that this bird is kosher. Rabbi Yochanan said, and this is the halacha only when the teacher is familiar with the non-kosher birds and with their names. Boy Rabzera, Rabo Chacham, or Rabo Tzayad. Toshima, Rabbi Yochanan, Hashabaki Bahen, which was him. Iyamr b'shlom Rabbi Tzayad Shapir Ela Iyamret Rabo Chacham Yishlom b'shem Shemayo Gamir Lehu Ela Inhu Mi Yada Lehu Ela Lav Shema Mino Rabo Tzayad Shema Mino. Rabbi Zer raised a dilemma. Was Rabbi Yochanan referring to the hunter's teacher, the sage, or to his teacher, the hunter, being the one who taught him how to hunt? The Gemara responds, coming to hear proof from that which Rabbi Yochanan said, and this applies only when the teacher is familiar with them and their names. Granted, if you say that this is referring to his teacher, the hunter, this works out well. But if you say that it is referring to his teacher, the sage, granted, the sage will know their names since he has learned them. But does he recognize the birds themselves? Rather, one must not conclude from it that Rabbi Yochanan referred to his teacher, the hunter. The Gemara concludes, indeed, conclude from it this is so. Tell Rabbanan, like, the sages taught in Braita, one may buy eggs from the Gentiles anywhere, and one need not be concerned neither with regard to carcasses, meaning that the egg may have been removed from a carcass of a bird, and therefore forbidden, nor with regard to eggs from a treifot, because neither of these possibilities is likely. The Gemara rejects, but perhaps they are from a non-kosher bird. Shmuel's father said the Braita is referring to a case where the Gentile says that they are of such and such a bird, which is not to be kosher. The Gemara challenges, but if the Gentile is deemed credible, let him say only that they are a kosher bird. Why does he need to name the species? The Gemara responds, if so, he does not name the species. He has the opportunity to deflect scrutiny if he is dishonest. But if he names the species, one can bring other eggs of the same species to compare and validate the claim. Livdog v'simonim Netanya gesim nibetim kach simoni dogim simoni dogim halgenaydach. It's not good for kaskeses amanachmana and ema kach simone. The Gemara asks, but why must one rely on the Gentile? Let him inspect the eggs for signs, as it is taught in Braita, like a sign of kosher eggs. So too are the signs of fish. The Gemara interjects, can it enter your mind that the Braita is referring to the signs of fish? Let the merciful one state them explicitly in the Torah, fish, fins, and scales. Leviticus 11:9. Rather say, so too are the signs of, and to be continued on the next daf.